In this Google Maps Finds adventure, I'm going to hopefully locate and identify two objects. As you can see on the map image, there appears to be two separate foundations or objects in the woods. The good thing is they're not very remote, as there's a residential neighborhood close by, and in order for me to get there, I'm going to be walking on a small piece of history. To see what I may or may not find, all you need to do is come along with me. Got a pretty large water obstacle in front of us. We're going to go around that. As mentioned, neighborhood is close by, but as we continue, we are going to veer off a little bit from the neighborhood. A lot of downed trees in this area, and a heck of a lot of birch trees. It's not the easiest to navigate, but making do. The one thing I'm seeing here is a heck of a lot of nature's carpet. This is also my second time filming with my new DJI Pocket 3 camera with my wireless audio, so feel free to let me know how the picture quality and audio is doing in this video. Neighborhood is here. As we progress forward, we're veering away from the neighborhood as I mentioned we would. Landscape is changing a bit. We're going up in elevation slightly, got some embankments, and we're going off towards the left, away from the homes. Now, to put things into better context for you, this location that we're filming today is actually relatively close by to another Google Maps find that I filmed back in 2023, just last year. And that's the location I'm going to be returning to do a more thorough exploration, because there are some things I couldn't film based on the time of year. It requires me to get wet. On top of that, I did learn a good bit of information about this area, because this area was actually D&H territory, Delaware and Hudson. First, the Gravity Railroad came through this area, and later on, the railroad. This trail we're walking right now was at one time one section of the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. That's why I stated earlier, we're actually going to be walking on a small piece of history. Oh, looks like people are tossing away more modern stuff. Instead of the old box TVs from the 80s and 90s, people are now throwing away flat screens. Yes. Could be a large computer monitor, but it's Element. So if you're looking for one, it's up for the taking right here. It appears this area has been worked over time. All these little piles and cutouts and mounds of material most likely are not natural. They could have been done from mining, could have been done from the Gravity Railroad or the railroad. And up here, not only are we slightly rising elevation, the neighborhood's actually going downhill, but this is a nice wide open straightaway section, which clearly shows that this was once an old set of rail tracks that came through here. If we're lucky, we'll spot something related to it, such as ties, plates, spikes. I doubt we'll see any rails. Even maybe a telegraph pole or two. So I'll keep my eyes peeled as we continue to our target destination. Now, prior to coming here, I did find something rather interesting when I found some of the old maps. So the targets I showed you on Google Earth or Google Maps, I found on the old black and white maps from the early 1900s. There's two different maps that I found for this area, And the thing that's interesting is that, well, for one, the targets are there, but the smaller of the two targets, the one closer to the rail line here, has a roof on it. So that leads me to believe it was indeed a structure, a building that was enclosed. The one behind it though, the larger of the two, well, that one looks different because all I see on those images is a shiny, dark, reflective surface, which leads me to believe it's like a pool of water. So I don't know what it is, what it was, if it was indeed a pool, or if it's something that was just flat and dark as a roof. And I'm also wondering, were they related to the railroad or Gravity Railroad? Gravity Railroad is going back a long time, 1800s. Railroad, more recent, but they're not exactly really close to the tracks, where the tracks used to be. They are offset a good distance in the woods. At least that's how it appears on the maps. So that's something to keep in mind, that they may or may not have had something to do with the railroad. Coming out to a clearing in just a moment, but I looked over to my left and I noticed something that I believe is man-made. Do you spot it? Right there. Looks like a little spring well made out of stone. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. There is indeed water inside of it. Looks like it's partially frozen. Goes down about 1 inch or 2. But yeah, that is completely man-made. Just a little finding here. It's probably an underground spring in this mountainside here, or hillside. That's looking back where we just came from. We're now in the clearing. And it's a clearing because there is power lines here. But over here, there's some running water. Appears to be a little outflow of sorts coming from looks like a culvert pipe or drainage pipe just on the crest of the hill. I just am curious where the water is flowing to. I'm not sure if it's going underground because the ground is saturated here, but I think it may be going underground as well. It's the Pisces in me. I hear or see water, I always get drawn to it. This is a man-made creek bed of sorts. This is poured concrete and large boulders and stones, which will prevent erosion. And it's channeling the water right down there. It's a pretty decent size gated pipe. And it's coming out from another pipe just up on top of there. We're continuing on, and I did check Google Maps with my GPS location turned on, and I should be about 100 yards or less from our targets. Do you think they're still going to be there? Leave your guesses down below. I think they will, just because they're offset in the woods, and they're not, from what I could tell, intact structures. I think we're going to find something, and hopefully we'll get some clues as to what it once was. The other thing I'm noticing too is that on our left side, where we're going to be heading, is that there are some hills and large mounds. So if it stays like this, we're going to have to climb upwards to find these two items. And that'll mean that these items are possibly higher than the rail line, and that they may actually be built on a hillside or an embankment. In case you're wondering too, it's a gorgeous early February day. It's approximately 11 a.m. and around 35 degrees, about a 5 to 6 mile per hour breeze. We are getting very, very close. I checked my location again. We should be pretty much within a stone's throw distance, so I am keeping a good eye out on the left-hand side here, but the elevation, the landscape is still hilly here, so I'm gonna have to probably climb upwards to locate it. It may not be visible from right here. Remember, kids, don't drink and drive. We are really close. I think we need to go up ahead, maybe another couple hundred feet. I think the smaller the two structures should be visible from where we are, and the other one is further back. The good news is that this landscape is changing. It's now coming down, less of an incline, less of a hill. Things are more visible. I can see further in the distance. So a little bit further down this way, up on this side, and hopefully we'll be in luck and find what we came to look for. I'm continuing down. I'm not sure if my eyes are playing tricks on me, but I think I may see the first of the two objects. I do see a squared off area that's built up around it, and I think that could be it. It looks like a little foundation wall protruding up. And there's another tie right here. There's also, looks like where some overflow does flow down from the hill here when it does rain. And I'm wondering if that will lead us up to it. So we need to climb. We need to go up there. I could see a squared off area. And if that's still there, the second item should be just further up behind it. But just to put things into proximity, this is the old D&H rail line. And that up there is probably, I'd say, close to 100 feet away. Give or take 10, 20 feet. It's not super close, not something that would have been immediately serviced by rail with like a dock or something like that, but who knows? Enough speculation. Let's get up there and find out for ourselves. Oh, this is definitely getting the heart pumping. Pretty steep incline here. You're doing a good job holding the camera there. When you're done, keep coming. Yes, indeed, there's something here. And I believe the second item is up there as well. At least today, we didn't strike out. I'm gonna come up around it. There's a wash area here. Oh, there's a large rock. It says Jake with a cross on it. So you can start to see the outline of it here. It's all hand-laid stone. If by chance someone did perish here, hopefully he's resting in peace. But here is target number 1. It just appears to be a perfectly square building foundation. Walls were really thick. They're probably 2.5, 3 feet in diameter. Nothing left of a roof or walls or innards, just a sunken down area with nature now calling it home. This is more or less the unofficial doorway It's the only area that's open without a wall here. Knock to come in. I did decide to bring you guys inside here as well. I was going to leave you on the wall, but it might be too far away here. You can walk around with me and you can see things a bit closer up. Not a whole lot to see, just a lot of built up material, decades of leaves and branches and some rocks, a lot of downed trees, some bamboo stuff. Now, a couple things I'm going to point out just from my observation. Number one, the walls are primarily made out of stone, concrete plaster to keep them smooth and keep the rocks intact. For the most part, their walls are all the same height. Some are lower than others. Part of that has to do with the couple downed trees that may have knocked or dislodged the stones. And the walls' heights do vary also on the inside based on the amount of earth built up. Like over here is higher, as well as here. Back there I'll show you it's lower. So I don't know if this was actually inside space. This may have just been the subfloor, if you want to call it that, where the floor would have been even with the walls, and excuse me, the interior space would have been obviously between the roof and the floor. This may have been just kind of how you see it. That I don't know. I'm imagining though the walls were probably made out of brick or cinder block. It definitely had a roof. As for its purpose, no idea at all. I do see a pipe. Come on, I'll show you. There is a pipe that's broken off, sticking out right there. Could have been for anything, drainage, but not a whole lot to see. So for this one, you know, like I always say, take the good with the bad. At least we didn't strike out and not find it. It's still here. It just, we don't know what it is, what it was, its purpose. It's definitely on the embankment of the hill here. So it's level here on the outside of that wall. It's built up of material to keep it level, but the landscape does drop off down towards the rail line. Here you can see that I am able to stand taller than the wall, but as I come over here, this sectional wall is almost taller than me. And there are some little sinkholes here. Looks like some burrowing of animals, but that down tree, I'm pretty sure knocked off part of that wall. So I'm more intrigued about the second one. I could see it from here, very similar to this, but just 2 to 3 times the size lengthwise. And I'm wondering if that indeed was a pool of sorts. But let's get back outside here. I'm going to snap some photos and then we'll pick up at our second object. Ah, there's more of those little chocolate pellets. Remember kids, if you find those, don't eat them. They're not milk duds. I just walked up that little line right there. So the structure is down below there. You can faintly see it through the trees. We are above it now, and just below the second one. This one is significantly larger. Both the walls, the height, the length, the materials to build it, even like this boulder right here. See how big it is compared to my hand. This sucker's huge. So from the outside, the walls are probably between 6 and 7 feet tall, depending on the earth that you're standing on. But they are indeed pretty tall, so maybe it was a pool. Maybe we'll find out. If it was a pool, it was a good size one. just from here, from this corner to the other corner, which I think I see the end of it. Geez, that's, I'd say 70 to 80 feet, maybe even longer. Hopefully when we get up around it, I'll be able to give you a better visual representation. Now looking at the landscape around here, man has definitely been here. There's some beer cans strewn about. There's something metal right there. It might be a remnant of a burn barrel or something else. Maybe I'll check that before we leave. Well, we are essentially on top of it now. More Keystone light. And here you go. Here is your look at this large rectangular object that we found on Google Maps. Like I said, this one is probably 2 to 3 times the size as the other one. Constructed primarily the same, just much larger materials. Huge boulders and rocks making up these walls. The wall, for the most part, is intact all the way around except for here. It's maybe buried under this material, but it's definitely knocked away. And there is water flowing into it as we speak. It's trickling down from above, and it's flowing right in. Couple faint pieces of graffiti, but overall, not bad at all. Now, unless you're really looking for these from that old rail line, ATV trail, you wouldn't see these on your own. You have to be looking up and looking for a specific man-made shape. So, unless you're local, the average person probably doesn't even know these are here. Yeah, here's a good sense now. We're standing on the far end looking diagonally across. I think that's definitely 70 to 80 feet in length. Width-wise across, I'd say probably closer to 40, between 30 and 40. I'm gonna snap a few photos. I'm gonna walk around down there, kind of scour the area, see if there's anything that we could find. I'll give you some visuals as well. And then I'm gonna just briefly scout the area right around here to see if maybe there is something else I missed on Google Maps that might be in the vicinity, because these two items are for the most part next to each other, just stone's throw apart. You know what, this very well could have been a pool. It's the right size, right shape of it, certainly deep enough, and it may have had a natural filling source. There's water flowing into it today as we speak. Not filling up, obviously, it's going underground, but they may have been able to have a way to harness and collect the water to have this fill up. Over here, the material is mounded, coming down a slope. That could have been the entrance of it, like a zero entry pool. I don't know. As I'm walking across it, you could see it's certainly over my head. But I may or may not be inside of a pool. There's a pipe there in the corner, maybe for draining the water. I'm curious to hear your thoughts though. I'll show you that image one more time, and I'm only able to show it as close as I can without it getting distorted, but that looks like a shiny reflective surface to me. It doesn't look like a roof. It's dark colored, so it's black and white, so it would make sense it would be dark like that. If this was indeed a pool, who was it for? Was it for maybe the workers of the D&H? Was there a patch town around here? Obviously we know there's a neighborhood down below. Today, there's a roadway, maybe half a mile up there, you could hear the occasional car. It's rather isolated, relatively speaking. Not terribly far from the rail line, but this is the only two structures out here. As far as I know, wasn't able to see or find any other foundations or signs of civilization. But again, comment section is for you guys. Let me know your thoughts on both structures, but in particular this one. This one has me a bit more intrigued. I'm about 75% sure this was a pool, whether it's for swimming or just a collection basin. Maybe for, I'm thinking now maybe it could have been a collection basin for water for a town or for homes or for filling steam locomotives down below. It's a possibility. But certainly it's the shape of a pool. It's not a water tank or water tower like we would traditionally see. Looks like the pipe goes all the way through. It's still open. Most of these trees aren't that old. Relatively young trees. A handful of them are a bit older, but for the most part, it is pretty open and exposed. Now in the summertime, this is completely different because there's like a little bamboo patch here. I do see areas with ferns. So coming here this time of year was the best time to come. On top of that, no snakes. I'll tell you one thing, there is so much room for activities. Bonus points if you could tell me which movie that's from. I don't know what to make of it. I'm happy we found it, happy they're still here. Unhappy we have no further idea what took place back here. But I did put out a few speculations, a few guesses. Maybe one of those are right or in the ballpark. I could be completely off. But all I know is that I was determined to find these. I accomplished that goal. I was fairly confident they were still here. So I was right about that, thankfully. But we don't know anything more. But we do know it's in relation to the D&H. And we also know that I'm going to be back to this area in the summer, going back in that direction, kind of where we started. So you're going to learn more about this area when that video does come out, as well as another video that's going to take place a little bit farther from here, further north, northeast, that also encompasses the D&H. But those are coming out this summer. I'm just going to briefly look around though, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, we got that metal object, right? Let's go check that out really quick. I will say this area is relatively undisturbed. Not real any signs of man or activity. There's some fairly big trees, lots of rocks, some faint trails here or there, which could be game trails or maybe old access trails or something, but relatively undisturbed. And there's something crowing and a dog barking, of course. Well, I found the object. It is not a burn barrel. I don't know what it is. You guys can maybe identify that? It has like little sections. It's like it's divided. I don't see any stampings or anything on it. It does have a little indentation there. But that's mainly it. It's pretty quiet up here too. Looking down, you could faintly see the homes down there in the neighborhood. Summertime, you wouldn't see them at all. It's pretty thick trees and forest between here and those homes, but between here and there, of course, is the rail line. If by chance I do see something on the way out of here, then I'll share that as some bonus footage. But for the most part, I am happy with what we accomplished today. I do want to thank you, yes, you, for coming along for this adventure as we searched for our latest Google Maps find. It wasn't a real spectacular journey, but they can't always be like that. But I do have another Google Maps find coming up during the winter time, a much more remote one that's going to require multiple miles of trekking. I'm going to be doing that either this month or next month, so be on the lookout for that, and feel free to check out my Google Finds, Google Maps playlist to see other adventures just like this one. Otherwise, thanks so very much for hanging out, and like always, I'll see you in the next video.